Thank you for tuning in to this week's WorthWhile Spotlight. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Visit Columbia. Check out their website at visitcolumbiatn.com to learn about all things Columbia. Their website features local artists, local businesses, and local events, so check them out and visit Columbia. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this week's WorthWhile Spotlight. I'm excited to dive into it. My guest on here, Aaron Rudd.
What's going on, Tyler?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here and chat it up, see where we go with this.
So, give a little description of what you do before we dive into it. Mealtime Collective is part of the arts building here where we film. Give a description of what it is.
Yeah, so my wife and I started Mealtime Collective. We were actually the first tenant in this building 2018. We're starting our 5th year. And so we're a co-working space. We provide, workspace for remote workers, entrepreneurs, people who work from home, and we also rent it out for events, usually people 50 or less. Any type of event, and then outside of that, we look to the community to collaborate on, really any type of event that they might want to have, whether it's poetry or music or whatever it might be. We just try to facilitate the space for community to connect.
Definitely. So I like that. What's the most exciting event you think that's taken place there over the years, from your perspective?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it a few days ago with the fashion show.
Really?
That was just. It was incredible. I mean, the room was full. Yeah. There was really just enough room for people to walk around, sporting. I think you were in it. Mm-hmm. A couple other brands were represented. Yeah. Chill 9 was there. I think we had Dope Fades. Yeah. So really it was just a community event promoting local brands, and then Glover was there as well.
That's wild.
So it was beautiful, just kind of the way that, we planned it out. It just kind of worked as it did, but it was just so much fun to have just like a crowd of people gather in one place, and then we all crowded into the next place, and that was probably one of the most exciting nights. I was feeling it.
That was 2018 too, right? Was that the first year?
I think it was. Yeah. It was pretty within the 6 to 8 months we were kind of rocking and rolling into things.
That was a fun night. I mean, we talked about it the other day, but just hearing you talk about that, visualizing it was wild. Conference room, everyone was
it was all coming together last minute. Nobody knew what was happening.
But it flowed perfectly.
It did. It went really well, and I think really everybody had a good time, and more people were coming in, and there was no room, but everybody was finding a spot, and it was the energy and the vibe was just amazing.
Literally every person that came out, everyone was like, "Yeah, let's have it."
For sure.
So how'd you all get to Columbia? I mean, I know you've been here for several years now, but how'd you get to Columbia?
We were in Spring Hill for about 10 years before moving to Columbia, and so we were in a subdivision there, which most everybody is. We just needed a little bit more space, with our kids, and my wife and I were really just looking to kind of slow down a bit, give them more space to roam, and that was my wife and I. That was our experience growing up, is we just had space to roam and go outside and play, and we didn't come home till it was dark, So, and that's just kind of the way that it was back in those days, and we're kind of that way in a sense, but it was more or less kick you out and figure it out on your own in our day.
Fair. How long were you in Spring Hills? You said.
Yeah, we were in Spring Hill for
Where were you born?
Close to 10 years. My wife and I are both originally from Oklahoma.
Okay.
I moved up here when I was 16, 17 in 26, oh my gosh, going way back, 96, 95 is when we moved here with my dad, and then I finished up high school, went to MTSU for a couple of years, and then moved back to Oklahoma and met my wife, and then we moved up here to start our family. So, and that was in 2000, 2001. Moved to Murfreesboro together, and then from Murfreesboro to Spring Hill.
Gotcha.
Now in Columbia.
Did y'all know each other before you moved here the first time?
No, that story's pretty interesting, just how it worked out, because, my mom owned a pretty successful, restaurant in town, soup, salad, sandwiches. That's kind of where everybody went in a small, couple stoplight town. So, it's kind of where everybody gathered. Everyone knew, my mom or my stepdad, and I worked there throughout the summers, and I'd be riding my bike around all over town. That's what everybody did. And so between everyone that I knew and everyone that my sister knew and hung out with, like, we knew everybody. But somehow or another, even my wife's sister, I met her at the restaurant numerous times, saw her often. Never ran into my wife at all.
Really?
And that was like probably 6 to 7 year span. Again, like every day during the summer on a bike, we all were there. And then we DJ'd locally, and so we'd have dances, and so everybody would gather there, and we just tried to have a place where kids could go out and do something and have a good time versus really getting in trouble. So, but yeah, I mean, it ended up where I was living back in Tennessee. This was, I think I was 18 years old around that time, 19 maybe, and my cousin and I decided to get some tickets to go see Boyz II Men, and we were going to get dates, so we got a couple extra tickets. And being in Tennessee, trying to get a date in Oklahoma, like I knew, actually had a black book of like, you roll it out, who should I call, sort of thing. And no one was really available, either with, somebody was in a relationship or whatnot, and, we just going for friends or whatever, but ended up meeting, well, last minute I was like, Mom, I called my mom, I was like, I don't have anybody to go to the concert with me. Do you recommend anyone? Right. And so, my mom and her mom actually were hanging out quite a bit around that time. And she's like, oh yeah, Jenny would be a great fit. And, we have Mule Day in Columbia, right? And so that's kind of the big gathering here, but the big gathering there is Frontier Days. And I don't think we were DJing that particular year, but I met her at Frontier Days, and there's a parade that goes through town, and so I saw her for the first time, and I was just like, wow. Wow, okay, so this is exciting, so it was a total blind date set up for her and I to get connected, and I didn't know anything about her. I had somewhat of a reputation, so she had heard things about me, good or bad, I don't know, but
a slight ear scratch.
Yeah. But I mean, we went to the concert. We had a great time, and so it just, here we are, 4 kids later, and we built a pretty great lives for ourselves, and super thankful to have her in my life, because I didn't really have a whole lot of direction. Music was the only thing for me at that point in time in my life. So she's kind of helped to at least, what about this or what about that?
Yeah. Offers a different perspective. You guys are on a team, so it's like just built from that.
For sure.
That's awesome. I don't think I knew that. Honestly, I didn't know that. No, I mean, never asked.
Yeah, I mean, I and Boyz II Men was kind of like my first love for even like. My dad, of course, I grew up in heavily influenced the music, but then, it wasn't until on the back of a school bus in elementary school that I learned about Boyz II Men. And from there, it was like, that blind date for Boyz II Men, meeting my wife was just like, You know, it's very interesting how it all worked out, and to be around the same group of people that she knew, that I knew, and to never connect in 7 or 8 years of that, and like our moms being really close is like just kind of strange how like timing.
Yeah. When did you like look back at that timing and like connect those dots? Was it like relatively close to that time frame?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, definitely. It was just shortly thereafter. It's just like thinking about how that worked out was just a bit like there's something else to this.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty much for the most part opposites, but you know, she's kind of the ideas and I'm the executor. So we work really well together in that fashion and make, you know, a lot of time in the evenings and in the mornings. Conversation that we had earlier before we got started, you know, we have about half an hour, like what's going on today?
Yeah.
You know, what do we have to do today? And so kind of set those priorities early on, and then, you know, the evening, usually on the weekends more than anything else, we can kind of figure out what needs to be done. You know, we just finished building the house and such, so there was so many details that went into that.
And that's been a process, I'm sure.
Yeah, 7 years. It's I could never imagine, you know, if I started today and said I'm going to have a project that's going to take me 7 years, but I gotta, you know, commit to that is, you know, it's definitely been one of those things that has helped me become who I am more so. Just pure discipline and self-awareness, and you know, like getting things done is really what I've turned into more than anything else, is just an executor. Like, this needs to be done. If I wait till later, it's not going to happen. Sure. It's like, it's always now.
Now, you just said that you've become an executor. Is that, when did that transfer? Because of like meeting her and like becoming that, or?
Yeah, it has. You know, she, through our marriage, has like said, you know, Aaron, I need X, Y, Z done, you know, as the man of the house or whatever. It's like certain duties, you know, that needs to be done. Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was always like, yeah, you know, I'll get to it. That was kind of my attitude back in the day, but really something, and I would say, it was really like experiences of between, it was the miscarriage. And we've had miscarriages in our relationship, but there was one in particular in 2014, 13 maybe, that was just like quite a bit more devastating. And so, and I thought that I had lost her in that process. And so I think that was one of the things really that just like flipped the script for me. And then, you know, from that experience and kind of her being in somewhat of a depressive, she was depressed for like a year straight. And I was kind of in this place of over the top, exuberant, happy, joyful. And so that, you know, her being super low and me being super high was like, it really helped us to kind of get back to the middle ground, the homeostasis, for both of us, and knowing each other well. And it just really blossomed something even more beautiful than, you know, what we had ever experienced before. So yeah, it was a tough time, but I think from that time, you know, there's been a continuation of, you know, losing friends and relationships and people along the way that's just like kept, you know, like I've got today, you know, and what is priority today? What means the most? Who can I be, or what can I do to make the most of this day that would, you know, help my wife, my children, and, you know, leave somewhat of a legacy if possible.
Be the best you
right,
can.
Right.
Yeah. I was talking to a lady the other day, and I had this thought process myself before I had like said something to her. She had something happen with one of her friends, and like it's not my business to tell, but like something had happened that led me to the conversation of I was like, I realized that it's not going to be easier. Like, I mean, I may have like things happening now and like things have happened in the past, but like, if you just sit down and look forward, it's like there's just going to be more things that happen. There's busier, like life, it just gets busier, but you just figure out how to handle it different. And everything that happens is like experience towards that. And like, okay, well, this kind of happened before. I could apply what I learned from this to this situation, and so on and so on. And it was a weird thought process because I was just sitting there, and it's just like, to just sit and think like it's not going to get easier. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, then you just make the day worth it. And like it comes full circle back to that. It's just wild to think about.
Definitely. Like you begin to understand, time, and you optimize it over and over and over again because something is going to pop up, like you said, all the time that, even though you have this list of priorities, this now has become the most important thing. And so you have to prioritize that. And, you may never get to these other priorities that you have. They may fall way, back in the scheme of things and maybe forgotten. And
are you a planner, like day by day planner, or do you try and plan out like your week, or how's that full? Like for me,
generally it's day by day.
Yeah, for me personally, it's like sometimes I'll go in a wave where it's like I'm gonna write out every single thing that has to be done today, and it's like you don't know who's gonna call the next day. You don't know what's gonna happen. It's like one thing could throw off that schedule, and then your day's messed up. But like I've just learned to just get up and go with what happens. Like there's things that need to be done, and it's like focus on those and just go with the flow. Is that how you?
Definitely. Just for example, my wife and I could be sitting on the couch talking about something that we need to tell the contractor about, and it's like immediately I'm on my phone. Yeah, it's like that's what needs to be done right now. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is like carrying on. All the things. Like I can't put all this stuff in my head and function.
No.
It's like I would be.
Yeah.
I would know what to do. But it helps to have the one thing, and then the one next thing, and then the one next thing, and then the one next thing. But if you can do one thing, then you've got a W, and that like helps your mind, that helps your body interact, and you get some energy going. And so I think, we're all in different places in our minds and where we are and how much we take on versus, are we getting anything done or not? But yeah, just like the simplest thing, like, I can have a bunch of super stupid simple things right now, which I do, and then I have one big thing. If you were to come to my house and look around the place, you may not notice it, but I've probably got 100 different projects going on. And it's all iterative, and that's kind of the way being in technology that projects work. It's like, well, we just need a home page today. I develop websites, so or we just need some little module with some code to update. So all these things are scaling and growing in different versions of themselves, and that's why I just love to work with my hands. It's kind of my therapy, because you got the digital mind thinking thing with the computer, and then you have the farm life, which is putting your hand to it, working the muscle. So
you found that balance.
Yeah, I love it. I work hard. On
you
both sides
it,
of things.
Mm-hmm. You enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it brings me great joy to be out there and even get my my kids to out there and doing things. It's like they have devices they could be on, or video games, or they could be doing actual real work, actual real feelings.
Which gives real rewards.
Right. Like, real reward. Get some muscles, get learn something that you can put your hand to, actually, not just something that's there and then fades away, makes you feel good for a moment, but actually produces nothing in the long run.
Which is, unfortunately, social media.
It is. And I think we just, it's important for us to find the balance in that, because it's not going away. It's either running our lives or is in the background somehow or another doing it. I know some people that don't do it at all, but for people, building a business, to the younger generation is like, it's hard not to. But being like, I went through years when first started this business, it just, I got burnt out. It took me like out, mental health was.
You're talking about just focus on like doing social media for it? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing something every day, maybe two or three times a day, and like,
I remember.
I had a business, but I was trying to run this and promote this and the community, and like it just got, I was consumed by it, and I really took a couple of year break for the most part, just resting. Like our minds aren't like, that's not how they're supposed to function. It's like you got a pleasure side and a pain side, and you're hitting that pleasure side all the time. That's not how your brain's supposed to work. Like you've got to like rest, and you've got to deal with some of the stuff that you need to heal from. So there's like that, again, that homeostasis is kind of the center point of being you. Like all this other stuff is just noise. Like it's not, like we can, titles and labels and left and right, and like all these things can take us away from like our heart, which is like, who are we? What are we here to do? What do you want to do? Who do you want to connect with? Like something real and tangible, and something that you can leave behind, for your kids or whosoever is in your life. I think that's really a super important part to focus on today and every day.
Yeah. I mean, going back to like you said, like there's pain and pleasure. And that pain, whether you address it or not, or allow yourself to feel it, is compounding. Like the more time you don't look at it or feel it or even put thought towards it, like it's just building up. I mean,
yeah, and you can meditate that stuff away, but it's not going anywhere until you actually deal with it.
Yeah.
But that has to be distraction free. It doesn't, you can do some meditation to get there. But for the most part, I think and that's where the meditative side, just silence.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily, sometimes I'll do music, but I just need to have a quiet place.
Yeah.
And that may be sitting on my front porch and listening to the birds chirp, or finding just an open space with the stars. Like we're here.
Yeah.
And this is the natural thing, the sun rising, the sun falling, and those kinds of things, like really put things in perspective, or should put things in perspective. They're the most natural elements of the universe that we have to reflect on.
Literally. Do you routinely meditate, or is it something
I would say a couple times a week. I just now kind of got back into a workout routine. My schedule's like all over the place and changes with having 4 children and so, and everything else that I have going on. But right now I just, it's more like stretching. I'll do some praying and, while I'm in that mode, but it's more of just like kind of feeling, it's like my neck's a little stiff, shoulders, it's yoga really.
Which is a form.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'll just lead that maybe into some other, weight training type things. But for the most part, it's just mobility and just, getting your body prepared for what the day's like. Just the more loose you feel, I think the better your outcome. Of course, after all that's the cold shower, which like takes out all the inflammation.
You do full cold shower, or do you do
as cold as I can possibly get it? Yeah, it's just like barely on, jump into it. It's not a cold plunge. I did some of that in my pool this November, December. I still had some water in it at that point. But it was, yeah, I'd stay in there I'd get under and swim one side to the other and just kind of get in the center of the pool and try to stay in there for like 3 minutes, just still.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it was rejuvenating.
It's incredible. It makes you feel amazing, and it's super healthy.
I need to do the full cold shower. I'm a hot shower, and then the last like 3 minutes, I'll just make it cold. And like that also has a different effect because I mean your body's going through the warm just to like tightening back up instead of just straight to the tightening. But I want to do a full cold. I need to.
Yeah, it's the first couple of times it sucks. It still sucks every time.
Yeah.
But I think really if you can get, for me, the workout and my muscles and my body get hot enough to when the cold shower hits, it's like like a summer day outside. Of course I want cold water.
Do you have the internal battle every time still of like,
no,
I don't want to take this cold shower?
I usually stand at the back of the shower and just kind of, again, focus, because I've already been doing a lot of breathing up to that point where I'm pretty,
You're already ready. You're ready.
I'm pretty ready already, but there's other times where I might not have gotten enough of that breathing aspect to where I'm just, I kind of have to do a nice pull in a couple of times before I go into just psych myself. And that, it does help. For sure.
When did you get into like the breathing techniques?
Oh my gosh.
Start with like
I had like
meditation. Because I'm a fan, like I pay attention to my breathing, and then like before meditating, like I'll make sure like, inhale, exhale, count your breaths, like feel it, go inside, up your head, like into your body. But like I've been hearing just from different podcasts and stuff and just like research outside of it, but there's specific breathing techniques that just unlock different parts of your thinking and feeling. And I mean, how'd that start for you? I mean, everyone's different, but
the breathing in particular started with a friend of mine who was a pastor at that time in Spring Hill, and he and I were praying a couple times, maybe once or twice a week. We just get together and pray, and he had, I don't even know what the book's called, honestly. It's been 13 years probably since that had happened, and I just, which I do with every book, I generally don't read an entire book. I'll get into it and I'll read 3 chapters and I might come back to it, but it's just like it gets me enough where I'm like, I can take that and then I can Google search, or it'll lead me into another path and kind of take me a little bit deeper. So that book really led me into just being aware.
Let's say awareness,
being aware of my breathing, and how that made me feel, just my own science about myself. And then, that taking me into Wim Hof kind of came on the scene about 5 or 6 years ago. And now he's super popular. And then, Andrew Huberman.
I'm not familiar with him.
He has Huberman Lab. He has a podcast. He's a neuroscientist at professor at Stanford.
What's his name again?
Andrew Huberman. Huberman.
Does he wear a suit during his...
Huberman Lab? No, I don't think so. He's all black and has a black background.
I might be thinking about something different. But
he's kind of into microbiology, and my wife is very much into, she teaches science and physics and chemistry.
So it's like right in the middle of that.
Right. So with her kind of talking about bacteria and the biology of that this past summer, and I didn't even read the book that she was getting into, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to learn more about this. And then hearing him, and he'll have like, sports performance guys come on and talk about, like the best workout to get the most out of it. Like he'll talk about kombuchas and different drinks, and really how to get your gut microbiome into really a place of homeostasis, which homeostasis is just like the center. We were talking about infinity earlier. It's like the center of the universe. Like
literally,
really, like consciousness is our being. Like it's who we are here, present. Without the consciousness of knowing who we are, then like who knows where we are?
I mean,
I don't know.
But if you're aware and conscious of yourself, then you
Right.
are the center of your own universe.
Totally, for sure.
In short.
In short. So it's been great to kind of find myself in these different places and learning these different things and just trying stuff out. That's really like, do I feel good?
Yeah.
If I don't feel good myself, then how can I, reach out to somebody else and help them, or have energy to even do that with my schedule.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think that's what I'm here for. What you're here for is to serve people. That's our heart behind anything that we do, and just let everybody know they're worthwhile.
And everybody has that in their own way. I mean,
They do. We're all unique. We all have different perspectives and experiences that have led us up to this point, and based on the conversation that I'm having, which we also talked about, that listening is like listening is super important, and making time for someone to actually listen and hear their story, not just like what are you hearing, as an outsider. Like, they have their own conscious set of things that they've learned, and there's different things about their psychology that maybe they don't understand, but as an objective point of view, taking the time to listen and maybe say, what about this, or what, like maybe as a coach or something like that. But just like, where is their heart? Like, what are you really hearing in their heart? Where are they coming from? Like, I've just been around so many different types of people, that you have too, and hearing their story, and like, what does that mean? Like, what are they going through? And a lot of times, like when I'm going through something that's painful, I've learned to like reach out and call. Like, it's not necessarily that I'm calling to tell anybody about my business or what's going on with me, but just like, what's going on with you? And 10 times out of 10, they're going through something equally as painful, if not worse. And so it's perspective.
And it's asking that question, like, what's going on with you? Or how can I help you? How, like, offering that assistance to somebody, offering your ear opens up doors that would never be opened otherwise. I mean, I read this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I don't like how it says like win friends, because it's like, I'm not trying to like win a friend, but like I was reading it and I discovered while I was reading it that I was doing the things in the book without knowing what I was doing, and such as listening and stuff. And it was just saying, like, people like naturally want to talk about themselves.
Yeah, they
And if you immediately like, hey, how are you? Like, my name's this, and like, this is where I'm from, this is that. Like, you're never letting that door open. And so like, I applied that even more once I figured out like that's what I was doing anyway with the serving and like bartending. It's like, people are there to like have an experience, and like, I'm there to make that experience 10 times better, 100 times better. And like, just by listening, like, I've built so many relationships with people that like would have never been anything unless I just said, how are you doing today? Or like, what'd you have for breakfast today? Like, it just opens, just ask, and you will receive.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, it's so good. Just to know like that you care at all, because a lot of our experiences, like we got toxic relationships these days. It's out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of secrecy, like how can we as a conscious people in a community help others get beyond their stuff,
I think,
and really get to a place of thriving within themselves, using their gifts, their callings, their talents to help others.
What do you think the key to do that is? Because I was, Jay Shetty. Have you heard Jay Shetty?
I've heard the name. I'm not familiar.
He's a big, I guess, spiritual leader, and like about being inner self and like expressing that. He actually, interesting enough, I was listening to his podcast last night, and like, he spent like 3 years as a monk and then like applied his teachings to like, you know, his business, and like he was getting, you know, shade from people left and right, like, oh, if you were a monk, like you can't be growing a business. And he was like, it's not about that, it's about balance. Like, how could you teach people about this type of stuff if you aren't growing a business and getting it in front of people? But oh man, I lost my, oh, he was saying that there's everywhere there's the spiritual and wellness, like people doing yoga, meditation, like everyone's doing it in their own time, but there's no organized effort to like get this like traction, like a movement in that sense. And like hearing him say that, I was like, it's true, you know, like you'll go across just throughout life and you're like, oh, are you into meditation? Oh, cool, yeah, like great, keep it up. And it's like, cool. There's no, you know, organizational like aspect to it. I don't know. I mean, I think that might be a key thing, but
time and space.
Time and space. Very true.
Yeah,
Very true.
I mean, you've got to have the space for people to gather. Food is important. Everybody wants to be eating while you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
It makes it that much, you know, better to keep our bodies in check, because, you know, if we're hungry, throws us off sometimes. But yeah, making the time to, you know, have the conversation, to have the listening ear.
Would you say time comes first or the space?
Well, I think they kind of go.
You gotta make the space for the time to be alluded to.
Yeah, I think back when we created this co-working space that, you know, we loved moving out of Spring Hill into Columbia. And then being down here, downtown, you know, my experience was working at Mealtime Coffee on Mondays, because we had a homeschool co-op that we were a part of. So we'd bring the kids down to do their homeschool co-op, and then I would work remotely at Mealtime Coffee. This is before the co-working space, but just like sitting in Mealtime Coffee and seeing the people come through and overhearing the conversations, and it was just really beautiful to observe and listen and hear how really kind the community was, and somewhat of a tight-knit thing going on. And, you know, I didn't know anybody. I've always been somewhat of a people person. So I wanted in, you know. I had no co-working concept at all in my mind at that time.
So was that your first like coffee shop experience? Was that Mealtown, or did you dabble in those in like, you know, like around MTSU or anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, being in the freelance world of, you know, design and development. You know, I worked in coffee shops in Spring Hill for years around.
Okay, so yeah,
you know, so I knew
that culture behind
right.
it.
I knew the culture of that, and you know, and I had some of that at previous coffee shop that was open in Spring Hill way back in the day. But there was really something special about Columbia, not just at the coffee shop, but, you know,
Columbia.
Since we were starting a farm, you know, we were shopping for a tractor and a bush hog, and so, you know, we were around farmers. True. You know, we had a neighbor who was a farmer across from us, and like to see the people and how they went into action to help somebody who was clueless. I was clueless about everything.
Really? So like before having the farm, or before making the decision, you never had any farm experience at all?
No. Like I grew up on a farm, and I did, you know, some things, but it was more fishing. Like that was my thing, was fishing.
It's a completely different game when you're looking at it.
Right. My granddad had some cattle and that sort of thing, but and I showed steers, you know, I was out there in my boots and and doing my thing in high school. So I was around livestock, but I had chickens. That was kind of the first thing that we did. I'd never really grown a garden, so we did some of those things. And I don't know what we're going to get into anymore at this point, but we wanted to finish the house first, and now we've done that. We'll see where things go. But just the people interaction when we came down here, like I felt like being in a subdivision in Spring Hill, there was just not a whole lot of people interaction unless you went like to the pool. You know, we had some,
which is ironic because there's so many houses in a subdivision, and all these people are in a small area, but
Yeah.
you don't know anybody.
No, and you know, half the time somebody used the restroom in the pool, so everybody had to get out and get it cleaned. Because there were kids and everything else there. It was like, we're not gonna swim today. But sorry, I hate to throw that in there.
It's just the raw truth. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
But you know, even during that time at Spring Hill, we were having gatherings with people, you know, and it was very much a spiritual gathering of like, who are we? How can we get together? What can we find out about ourselves and God? You know, and so we were just seeing a lot of incredible like things happening during that time, and just, you know, it was a tough time, you know, financially, and just like on the cusp of losing my house, but like we didn't stop the gathering. It's like we kept people coming, and food and drink, and like just learning about one another, and that's what it was about, is like
the energy.
And so, you know, we just showed up, and things happened, and you know, we learned more about ourselves. We learned more about what we couldn't see, because there were some things that happened that were just like undeniable, like you could feel it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I really, in seeing Columbia and in making space, or like all of this co-working thing, like more or less happened on its own. Like I felt like it was just, I'm here, you know, this is all coming together, and now what? You know, kind of the vision was to gather people and enhance what was already here.
Create the space.
Yeah.
That, like, when we talked the other day, like, I've had some like moments in there. There's just been like the fashion walk, for example. I was depressed during that time frame. I was extremely, like, I was torn. I just went through a breakup. I was facing myself as far as like, I'm growing this brand that everyone knows that's worthwhile and be you, but I was literally experiencing a degree of ego death where like I didn't know who I was, but everyone thought I did, and then I'm pushing a business that's to make money, but the root of all evil is money. So what's the point of growing this business? And like I had to smile every day I went out because I was bartending, and like it was terrible. But at that time, you know, this fashion show is happening. It's the first fashion walk I've ever had. Right. I just did the
first one that I know of.
Yeah. I mean, like there's great like worthwhile like awareness happening, but I was not in a good headspace during that time frame. But I mean, that for like the visionary workshop with Erica, just there's pop-ups. I had my first couple pop-ups here. Like there's been so much that's happened there, and it's because of the energy that you created for that space. So I mean, I thank you for creating it.
Oh, for sure. Like I wanted to give people the space. Like it's not, there's no really honestly agenda with this whole thing. Like show up and let's talk. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Honestly.
But there's beauty in that. There's beauty in that.
Yeah. And so beyond, you know, the fashion show, you know, we had, you know, little pop-up concerts thing, like just if you're an artist, like come and do your thing.
Yeah.
We don't have any money to pay you, but if you want to be promoted, like we have cameras and we have ways to
promote you.
Show who you are, what you do, your talents. Maybe that'll spark something for you. And really that was just, I wanted to promote Columbia at large because there's a great opportunity with social media to scale what's here. You know, like we can experience it all day and keep it to ourselves, but how do we capture what's happening here for someone who may not be here, who may be tired of the way the local, state, federal government is working, and how do we, you know, come to a place of doing things like put the power back in our own hands.
Yeah. Just goes back to organizing.
Right.
Organizing.
Relationships,
Yeah.
people. That's like the power has always been about the people.
Yeah.
From the bottom up, not from the top down. And so, I mean, that's what has always been in my heart, but I haven't always known how to articulate that or present that or seem like, I was telling people what to do. Like, that's the last thing that I want to do.
I feel that.
Because I love people, and I think everyone has their own set, of experiences and ways that they move freely, how they would want to. It's more of just like, show up,
Be present.
how are you feeling
Yeah.
in this moment related to the vision? What do you see like you could do? Like, could you take on some events? Could you coordinate some events? Could you do you want to do a little pop-up show? Like, do you want to do a pop-up to sell your brand? Like
Spoken word.
Spoken word, anything like that to get people together. That's what it was about. Get different types of people together. Be uncomfortable. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable. Like, that's how you grow. When you're put in the dirt.
Yeah.
It may or may not rain. It may get real hot and dry for some time, and you may feel like you're suffocating. But that's like, you have to trust. I could have literally 10 things show up right now, and I could fear my way out of it.
Avoid it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I could just say, you know what, like, some people like start small, some people like to start big. For me, I'm like, what am I feeling at the moment? Like, what can I make the most headway on at this very moment in time, that like when everything's a priority?
Yeah, yeah. Do you find it to be the smaller stuff that you can build momentum off completing, or do you find it to be the...
I think it definitely can work that way, but a lot of times, like, it's the larger things that you don't want to do.
So if you do the little things, you've done a bunch of things. By the time you get to that big thing, you're like, man, I've done...
Right, but you can take that big thing and make it a bunch of smaller ones.
True.
And that's kind of what you're daily running up to, your larger goal, your vision, whatever it may be, to then, 7 years to build a house. Now I'm done, but now there's still a little bit of this and that still has to be completed. But as far as on paper, it's completed. So I was trying to think of something else I had there, but
it's okay. Well, with the house or with the momentum?
Well, definitely the momentum. I mean, for my personal time, I get distracted with, I have a team of developers and they're always looking for work. And then, I have 4 kids that need my attention, or my wife needs me to run to do this or that. And, I have the freedom, thankfully, to be able to run and go do and hopefully get lunch along the way.
Yeah.
So I've just learned to just unction, like, what am I feeling right now? That's where the power is.
Yeah. Your
like,
intuition.
Go and do it. Intuition, 100%.
When did you learn about your intuition? Like, is that...
When we first bought land, I think, because that was kind of the first time that I had ever experienced any type of, I'm 43 now. I was 38 then, 36. That's kind of my first bout of anxiety, was living in a camper with 4 kids, in a barn, surrounded by acreage, and it's a mountain that I've got to climb. It's like, I'm stoked to do this, like, we got the papers, it's looking great, we got a plan, 6 months, build a house, be done. 7 years, it's like, versus 6 months is a long stretch of time.
Yeah.
And
was that what it was supposed to be, the 6 months?
that was our intent, but like,
life happens.
Quickly, out the gate, it's like, oh, well, you got half your budget now.
Ooh.
Like, what do you do with that when you have no framework? all I know is to do is move forward. And so that's what we've kept doing, and there was probably 2, maybe 3 times in that process where it was just like, there's no solution to the problem.
Just keep going.
That's all you can take
do.
another step.
Yeah.
And then take another step. It's one of those things that, like, on my daily task at the bottom right, like, the best way to eat an elephant, 1 bite at a time.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah. 1 bite at a time is the only way that you can eat an elephant. So, like, the whole, way our mind works, and fear versus faith is taking another step. Fear is like taking a step back and like, I don't know what to do. And so you close in and you avoid and you don't open yourself up to
anything.
What is like, like, this is not all that there is. There's so much more. It's expansive.
That's the exact word I was thinking.
Beyond what we could imagine or think. And so just allow yourself the time and the space. If that's 10 minutes in the morning, like, turn off the TV. Number one, turn off the TV. Turn off the phone. Like, yes, make an hour, in the evening, at lunchtime, eat your lunch and go over the phone. Get your updates. Get out of it. Be done. What is it that you feel like you want to do at this moment, and start taking the tiny steps. Eat the elephant 1 bite at a time. And 7 years later, you're living in your dream.
In the elephant.
In the elephant. And the elephant's inside of you, and you become an elephant. Because you are what you eat.
I love it. It's wild, though, that, like, just looking at the conversation that just happened, like the 30 seconds that just happened, where, like, it is expansive of everything that can happen, and, like, you're cutting yourself off by thinking about fear and, like, this, and it comes back to making time for yourself. Absolutely. It's like you could look so far out, like, be worried or have anxiety from this, but really all you can control is you.
Absolutely. That's the opportunity that we all have every day. Like, work through it. It takes work. It's hard. It's so hard. Like,
it's not easy.
Not gonna lie.
And the more that you discover about yourself, it just makes it more of a consistent. Like, I battle with myself every day. Totally. Every day.
But there's things that you will learn, in being uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't comfortable in my first interview. I was terribly uncomfortable.
You talking like job interview or like
just like here,
like
being
this?
On camera, like this kind of stuff is like, it takes, like a getting over, yourself, your thoughts, your mind, your feelings, and then just throwing up, like, what's in my heart, how honest or objective or how much can I share?
Yeah.
And so, like those are the things, the hurdles that you find yourself, especially in a community, people around you, like you have the phone and so you're not accountable to anything, but when you're around people,
it's different.
And you can't see yourself behind, and, like you got to be you fully, because someone's going to see something, and that's not even, like, be self-aware of yourself, not concerned about what other people think, because we're all doing that, and we're all learning to be less judgmental, because we have held on to things that have led us up to a certain mindset at this point.
100%. It just clicked in my mind. You're like, being people, we are like naturally like judgmental, but I feel like the more you focus on not being judgmental, the more you be yourself.
Yeah.
Which is
well, if you just take care of your own business,
I mean, you
focus on your own stuff, then what else are you focusing on?
I mean, what there's nothing else to say.
You, and when you're being the best you, there is an energy there. Your spirit is alive. It goes well beyond the body and the mind, and it attracts others around you. What's going on there? Like, who are you? What are you about?
It's like when the classic examples, like everyone knows like that person that like when they walk in the room, like they say like if you don't know that person, that someone comes in, it's like talks to everybody and stuff. I don't know who that was, but their energy was awesome. Like you can't see their energy, but you just described it and you've seen it and felt it.
Right.
It's like
you can't see the wind, but you can see its effects.
Yeah. Literally, we talked about that the other day.
We did. I wanted to throw that one back in there.
You have to. The wind is also a representation of your breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can blow the plant and it moved. Like
it does.
I moved that plant with my breath.
And it enjoyed it. It enjoys your breath.
It ate it
just
up.
like I enjoy its breath. It gives me oxygen.
Hey.
And I give it oxygen.
Wow.
CO2, carbon.
It's pretty wild. It's been a diverse conversation. I've enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
I have one question to ask, though, before we wrap up. It's been my staple question I'd like to ask now, but if you can go back to any age in your life and give yourself advice, what age, time frame, and what would it be?
Well, I don't do regrets. So the biggest thing would just be to probably, when I was 18, I'd probably just go to work and build some cash flow to get a house and, build a business. I mean, I think I would learn so much more about myself out the gate. Of course, but that would take away my opportunity to meet my wife and learn everything that she, has instilled into me as well. So there's definitely no regrets. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like there's not really anything that any one of us can do about that. So, we go through the things that we go through to learn what we need to do, what we need to know, as much as we can know for the moment that we step into next.
Well said. Well said. Well, I'm going to give you this piece.
Appreciate it, man.
Bro.
So excited about that. I've got one at home, and now I have a white version.
Hey,
so I'm stoked.
What color do you got at home?
I've got the black and
gold.
And the gold. Yeah.
There
It is.
Well, let everyone know again where you're located and how they can find you.
Worth Columbia Arts Building on level 3, 307 West 11th Street here in Columbia in the Arts District, about 3 minutes from downtown. So come see us.
You heard it. Thanks for tuning in, and just never forget that you are worth it and strive to be the best you that you can be. Thank you for tuning into this week's WorthWhile Spotlight. Our goal is to motivate people to become the best version of themselves possible through the power of storytelling. Our stories are written by the things that we experienced growing up, and these experiences, negative and positive, shape who we are and what we stand for. The beautiful thing about your story is that you get to decide how it's told. So as a diamond in the rough of life, hang tight and let your light shine bright.